All right, guys, so this lesson is going to talk about how to find a linear model to fit some data points, and we're going to talk about correlation. Has anybody in here had stats of either Prob and Stats or AP Stats? Okay, so you can just teach this lesson, all right? Or you can be my teacher's aide today, because this is going to be totally boring to you. This is a huge part of AP Stats. All right, in many situations, there is enough information or data points to construct some kind of model and then use that to predict future values. We eventually in this class are going to talk about everything from exponential growth models to sine curve models and all kinds of stuff, okay? You got the bobber on the fish, you got a bobber going up and down on a wave, and you can calculate its height as a sine graph and do all this kind of fun stuff. Today we're talking about lines. We can handle this, okay? Nothing complicated. The correlation of a line indicates how close the data points are to being linear. When I teach this in Algebra 1, sometimes we would teach correlation, and I would draw a little, I'd say it's kind of like a worm or a caterpillar. If it's really skinny, it's got a strong correlation. If you have to go like this and get a big blob to get all those points inside there, that's not very good correlation, kind of almost none at all. This one we could probably get a tiny correlation out of. It does kind of seem like most of the points are going up as we go to the right. The correlation coefficient is going to be the R value, and your calculator is going to determine that R value for you. Okay? The correlation coefficient is the R value. I'm saying that again because somebody's going to bring their test up to me. It's going to say find the correlation coefficient, and they're going to go, I don't remember what this is. Guess what? I'm not going to say, oh, it's just the R value on your calculator. You need to know that. All right? If you can't find the R value because it's not turned on your calculator, that I would help you with. The correlation coefficient has the same sign as the slope of that line would have. So back on this question, this one would have been positive, okay? It's negative if as your x increases, your y is decreasing. So here's some examples. This one is positive. A correlation coefficient is also always between a -1 and a +1. Okay, it can equal as well. But the only values are between -1 and +1. So this one they show as an example of 0.7. This one they say is only 0.3. I'm not positive I would agree with that. This one they say is 0 because it's just a big blob. Okay? Do you see the difference? Well, first of all, do you see the difference between the positive 0.7 and the negative 0.7, right? Okay. This they say is the 0.3 because, well, it is all kind of going in this direction. It's a big blob, right? It's not a skinny little worm. All right. Can we do a little predicting real quick? Game show time. What do you think this one is? -0.8? They went with 0.9. I think 0.8 is fine. What do you think about this one?
-0.4.
I probably would have said 0.6. It's not huge, right? 0.5 is fine, but if I draw this, it's not as spread out as some, right? Okay, what do you think about this one?
0.
Yep, it's pretty much a circle. All right, what do you think about this one? Somebody said 0.7. I don't really agree with this because this looks much closer to a line than this to me. So I don't think this is very, I just copied this off a website, but I don't think this is, I would say this is more like a 0.7. All right. Oops, I wasn't supposed to. That's 0.9. What do you think about this one?
1.
It's perfectly linear. It's 1. All right. We are going to plot some data using our calculator. The data we're going to talk about is the cash flow from a company over a 5-year period in dollars. And down further in the question here, it says, please let 1988 be year 0. So right above here, I'm going to just write so I remember this. This is going to be year 0, so that makes 89 year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. Did I confuse anybody on where we got those? Just subtracted 1988 from all of them. Be careful, guys. Sometimes the data points will go year 1, year 2, year 3, and then they skip and it goes year 7, year 8 or something, or year 7 and 10. Okay, so don't just assume it's always going up by ones. Then we are going to use these as our x values and these as our y values. In our calculator, that means we're going to put this in list 1 and this in list 2. And then we're going to turn on the stat plot and look, okay? Now, I don't see where it says on this screen how, oh yes it does, right here. I just want to make sure you know where the directions are, okay? Right here, it says you're going to go stat, enter, and type the numbers into list 1 for the years and the dollars into list 2. Does everybody see where that is on there? I'm going to show you on the calculator, but does everybody see where the directions are? This is how we entered numbers. Okay, when you get home later and you can't remember, I know it's on the worksheet, I can't remember where it is. All right, let me pull up one of my handy dandy fake calculators. And you guys are going to be way done before I even get there, because I'm so slow. Okay, what did we do to get there? Stat and then enter. Stat is up here. If you have the 84 that's not the color, it's slightly different, but it's kind of over here by the circle thing. Everybody good? And then we're just going to hit enter because we're going to edit the lists. Is there anyone who doesn't have a list 1 or list 2? Has it been deleted? Because that happens regularly. Let me show you what happens. To get rid of these numbers, somebody will go, oh, I'm going to just delete those numbers. If you scroll up onto the title and you hit delete, it takes away the whole list. Then you would have to do second delete, which is insert, and you would have to rename it by doing second to enter. Now, if I scroll over and I want to get rid of those numbers, what I should do instead of delete is clear enter. All right, so to clear a list, you go up onto the title and hit clear and then enter. All right, so you guys are way ahead of me, yes? Did you get these in already? This is 0, enter, 1, enter, through 4. Oops, yep, I messed up already. It doesn't keep up with me. There. Nope. All right. Come on. I did. It just doesn't go as fast as my fingers. This problem all day. 2.38. Nope. I didn't go over to the next. Okay. This is going to really. All right. Over to go to list 2. Up onto the title and hit clear, enter to get rid of those numbers, and then type in the new numbers off our chart. 2.38. I know you guys are done. This is so slow. There's probably somebody who's as slow as me. Maybe not.
It's not you.
Yes, it is. I even called the tech people to come look at it because I was frustrated. Yeah, it didn't get much better. He actually said this emulator takes a ton of RAM, so it slows everything down. Everybody good? Okay. Then on the worksheet it says we would like to look at the stat plot. Here are the directions for that, so you can highlight them and make sure you can find them later. It says we're going to go second, then the y equals button, then enter to turn it on, and we're going to choose the scatter plot, which is this one that's just a bunch of dots right here, and make sure it says list 1, list 2. And then this is going to be really important in a minute. Everybody forgets to do this. Every time you enter a new list, you have to do that. Whoa, oh. Let me turn that off, that sound, sorry. Every time we put a new set of numbers in, you're going to need to do that zoom 9. Okay. So again, it's second y equals. Yeah, if you have a color one, you can change the color. It's kind of fun. Enter. Make sure this blinking box is on. If it's blinking on off, then you need to scroll over and hit enter until it's blinking on the on spot there. We're eventually going to use all of these, but for today we just want the scatter plot, which is the one that's not connected in any way. You want to make sure it says list 1 and list 2. The mark doesn't matter. I like to pick the biggest one so I can see it. Pardon? You can scroll down or hit enter. Then if you have the color, you can pick a different color. You can scroll through the choices, but it's fine to just leave it at blue, or if you don't have a color calculator, you don't have that choice. Right. If I go to graph right now, I may or may not see my points. This is what my window is set to. I only see 1 point there. It has to do with the window. Now, remember how to do a window? You got to do the whole min, max, min, max. It's a big pain in the neck, right? For this, I'm going to let you just do zoom. And then this is a set of data or stats. So we're going to do zoom 9. Boop, it should show up. Anybody's doesn't look like this right now. Anybody's not look like this? Really? We're all that good? Okay, Jacob? You got an error? Okay. You put the data in, yes, into list 1 and list 2. Okay, yep. Got some garbage in here. I think that might be it. Yep. Okay, and then the zoom 9 over again. Anybody else? Yep. If you get extra things, sometimes I'll get a line going sideways through there or a piece of a parabola or something. All that means is if you go to y equals, you have something typed in there. Okay? Just clear this all out. Otherwise, it's trying to squeeze that into your graph as well. All right. So we're going to quickly fill this in our notes. It looked kind of like this. This was years since 1998, 88, 98, 88. Okay, can't remember. And this is dollars of cash flow, whatever. Can't spell, can't write. It's my notes. I really don't care, right? I haven't turned that annoying sound off yet, half hour. All right, describe the correlation for me. Positive? What else? Yeah, close to 1, right? I'm just going to write that it's very strong. Yep, it's close to 1. That's an approximately squiggle. Sideways. Yep, my writing is a mess right there. Any questions on that? No. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is by hand calculate. It says let x be 0, be 1988. Write an equation of the line by hand using years specifically 88 and 90. So using this data point and this data point. What are the ordered pairs for those 2 points? 0, 2.38, and 2, 3.23. Okay, equation of the line. How fast can we do this? We did a lot of these yesterday, right? Slope. I think it's 0.47 something, 42 something, I don't remember. 0.425. Thank you. That's our slope. Now, most of us, if we were assigned this question, would then go to point slope. Do we even need to do anything? Does anybody spot the magic thing that's happening here? This point is really the y-intercept already, right? So we really could just jump straight to 0.425x plus 2.38. Now, if we wanted to check this graph, you don't have to do this. Just hang on, we're going to do something different in a minute anyway. But if you wanted to, you could type this in. 0.425, is that what we had?
Yes.
X plus 2.378, or was it 38? Okay. I could do that, and then I could graph and see where it goes. We're going to do something a little different in a second. I'm going to leave that one on there just so you can see how it compares. Any questions on that part? All right, we're back to the calculator now. We're going to use the calculator to find what they call a line of best fit. It is complicated. They don't just pick 2 points, okay? So we're going to do this on the calculator. It says, finding a line of best fit on the calculator, you enter the data points in, and then you do this. Circle this so you know where to find it later. Okay? It's stat. That little thing means go to the right, arrow to the right. And then we're going to choose the linear regression, which is choice 4. All right, so on your calculator, you're going to go stat, arrow to the right to calculate, and to choose choice 4. Now, give me 1 second. How many of you don't have this? Just one of you? Everybody? 2 of you? Don't have this little lineup menu on your screen here. You don't get that menu? When you do stat right arrow 4? Yeah. See if it's possible. I think I'll turn it on this calculator. You know what? Yours, he doesn't have an upgraded operating system. If you give me 10 minutes after school or before school someday, I can update it, and then you will get this menu. Until then, the way you have to do and what tell me your name again. Morgan. I want to say Courtney. I don't know. I'm stuck. Morgan. What Morgan and anybody who has an older calculator at home is going to have to do is listed here. Okay? It says for an older calculator, you're going to have to type all this in, and you literally need to do the parentheses. I'm going to show you real fast because somebody's going to have to do this. Real fast if the calculator opens up. Just kidding. Okay, you're going to go stat, right arrow, 4, enter. And this is what they... Okay, this is what they get. They don't get that nice menu that we get of things to fill in. So they're going to have to type, Morgan, you listening? Parenthesis key, which is above the 8. Then the second 1 to get L1. Then a comma, which is above the 7. Second 2 to get L2 on the screen. Then a comma again. And then you're going to put a Y1 here. And I'm going to go through this several times. But the Y1 is under the variables key. Everybody's going to need to know this in a second. VARS next to clear. When I get there, I'm looking to put a Y1 or Y2 there. Anybody see what we need to do? Look at this screen. Yeah, we want a Y variable, so we have to go to the right. Which one mode are we in? We don't know anything about half of those yet, right? So we're just going to hit enter because we're in function mode. Now, those are the variables, or the Y variables. You can pick any one you want. You can store it anywhere. I don't care. It'll graph it, okay? But that's what you have to do if you don't have this screen. If you have this screen, all you need to do is arrow down. Frequency list we're not using, so it needs to be empty, and you need to make sure it said X list, L1, Y list, L2. Does anybody not have that? Okay, in the store, this is where we want to store the equation. This is what I just did with Morgan. Anybody remember the key we went to? The VARS, which is next to clear. The VARS key. Then what? Arrow to the right. We want a Y. Then enter. Now pick where you want to store it. Y1 is fine. Just hit enter again. I'm not going to store it in Y1. I'm going to store it in Y2 because I already put one in Y1, I think. Not positive where I put it. Okay. Now, you may have to hit enter once or twice to get it to do this, but it should show up with an equation like this. Now, did everybody get 0.421 and 2.378? You might not have got the R's. Yeah. Okay. But did you get the A and the B? Yes. You didn't get those numbers? Did you put it, check what you put in list 1 and list 2. Did you use 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or did you use 1988, 1989? Check if you typed them in. Just look at your worksheet one more time. I'll come look at it in a second. All right, guys. If you didn't get the diagnostics, the R and the R squared, the easiest way to fix that, if you have a newer calculator, is just go to Mode and scroll down, and right down here it says turn the diagnostics on, Stat Diagnostics. Make sure it says on right there. Sorry, I scrolled too far. If you have an older calculator or it doesn't have this operating system and you didn't get the R, this is how you do that. Just kind of watch, because this is kind of fun. If you go second 0, this is everything your calculator does in alphabetical order. It's like an index, okay? Now, the problem is you got to scroll all the way down to D for diagnostics, and this particular calculator doesn't scroll very fast. Mine doesn't. You want to find the one that says diagnostics on. Diagnostics on. I'm scrolling. I don't know why X's are in there, but diagnostics on. I'm getting there.
I think if you press alpha and deal, just jump to the.
Yeah, I had trouble with that this morning on my emulator, but yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep. You can go, it's already in alpha mode actually, so if you push the D, which is what number, guys? D is this little key over here. Do you see the gray D up there? Or mine's green looking? That'll take you down there. It doesn't, this emulator had trouble with that. So eventually you get to diagnostics on. Thank you though. Never be afraid to tell me that there's an easier way to do something on the calculator. When you get to diagnostic on, you hit enter, enter again, and all you get's done. It turned it on, but now you have to recalculate the line. And honestly, if you have one that scrolls, you can scroll back up here and just hit enter, and now it will redo it. And it will give you the R value. Who's still not getting an R? Did you already have an R value? Otherwise, you can redo it. Does you remember the steps? Stat, right arrow, 4. Then if you want to store it, you have to go down here to the VARs. Okay. I think I put mine in Y2, didn't I? Yeah. Okay. Did you figure out what was wrong?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody has an R in an equation? Okay, if you go to y equals now, it should be stored there. That was the whole point. We didn't want to have to retype it. I know it seems like a big pain in the neck because that VARS key is long, but eventually, when we store big, long sine equations, you are not going to want to retype it, okay? So if we do that store thing and get used to it, we're good. Now, if you go to graph, now instead of just dots, you should all get a line. I'm going to get 2 slightly different lines because I graphed 2 equations. The blue one is the one we did, and the red one is the one we just did. They're very, very similar. Do you notice? If we go to y equals, one of those we did by hand, and one the calculator did. Very, very similar, right? What if the points aren't quite as linear and we pick 2? In other words, what if one of my data points had been up here? And I had picked this dot and this dot. Am I going to get an equation that fits them all really good? No, can't draw one either. But it would make a difference which 2 dots we pick to do by hand, right? Where the calculator will always take all of the dots into consideration, all of the data points. All right. Do we need to do something with that equation? I feel like we do. It says write it down, right? Y equals, and it will say on the quiz linear model, and people don't know what that means. It just means write the equation down that we found. It was y equals 0.421. So the third time today I've taught this and I still don't have it memorized. Did you get 412 or are you good? Okay. I thought you said 412 and I thought maybe something. But you're okay? You're all good. All right. R is the correlation coefficient. Remember? On the test it's going to ask for the correlation coefficient. You have to remember that that's R. And the R value we got was 9999946 or something. Don't round to 1 because it's not exactly a perfect fit. 9999 is pretty darn close. I wouldn't probably make a big deal. But if it says 0.993, that's not a perfect fit. So just write down 0.993 or however many. Okay, I'm moving on to here. We need to predict using that value. We're supposed to predict what's going to happen in 2000. How many years after 1988 is 2000? 12 years. So we need to put a 12 in the equation. There's a bunch of ways you can do this. The easiest way, to be honest, for most of us is just to go back to the home screen. So do second mode, quit. Get this off here. And type it back in. 0.421 times 12 plus 2.378. Do I remember it now? Okay. Other ways you could do that. You could use the table. Did anybody use the table a lot in their other math class? Like Algebra 2? You could use a table and scroll all the way down to 12. That'll take a week on my emulator. That's why I don't do it, because it's like scroll. It's really slow. The other way you could do it, and this is a pain in the neck, if it happened to be in your window, you could go to the graph. You would need to trace and hit up until you were on the equation you wanted to use. See at the top here it says that equation. Then I could say, well, I want to trace out to 16. I'm going to get an error. I'm telling you now. Because my window doesn't go out to 16. So then I'd have to go back and make the window go out to 16. What is that, X or Y? What am I putting the 16 in for? X. So I'd have to make the X window go out past 16. Yeah, this is not the way to do this. Because when I hit trace now, it's just, it really doesn't look any, it looks different, but only because we changed the window. Come on, trace. Still trying to think. Okay, I'm just going to go with it's not a good choice. All right, what did you get? 3 something? 7 something? Okay, and anybody do this one yet? If we did minus 1988. Again, you know you can just scroll back up and change that 12 to a, what is it, 26? I think it's 26 years later. Do you know how to do that? Most of you have a calculator that when you are in the home screen, you can scroll up and recapture this problem. Hit enter, arrow to the left, and change this to a 26. So it's 1332. I'm going to round to the nearest cent. And you will have that feature, Jacob, as soon as I upgrade your operating system, I think. Okay? I'm sorry, Morgan, I can't upgrade the operating system on those old calculators. But you have more money in the bank because you didn't buy a new one, right? All right. This question, example 2, we're going to go through quickly. It is not a calculator question. It says draw the scatter plot. So by hand, really quickly, plot these points, okay? 1, 1, 2, 2.6. And please don't look up here. Just do it on your own because I do a horrible job. How does mine look? Am I close? It doesn't even give us any information about what these data points are. It's not an application, so I'm not going to make a big deal about labeling it. All we had to do is plot them. Part B says find the slope, and it says specifically to use which 2 points. What are the ordered pairs at 4 and 8?
4, 4, and 8.
Okay, anybody find the slope really fast? 8 minus 4 over 8 minus 4 is sounding a lot like 1. All right. Are we given the y-intercept? No, so most of you would turn around and do some kind of point slope thing maybe. But what does that come out?
You point at 1, 1, 2,
The intercept? It is on this, yes. But if you had a point at 1, 1 and you had another point at 3, 7, it wouldn't be 0. Yeah. Yep. If you back down 1, 1, yep, exactly. It's 0, so we just get y equals 1x or just y equals x. Does that make sense? Y is equal to x. 4, 4, 8, 8. Yes? Seems like the y and the x are equal. All right. Graph that line is D, part D up there. It specifically wants the line you just graphed, not some that you just wrote an equation for. So it needs to connect to 1, 1 and, or 4, 4 and 8, 8. Sorry. 4, 4, and 8, 8, which actually goes through 0, up 1 over 1, right? I just want you to do accurate line, and I didn't give you rulers, but the idea here is this a good model? Is it hitting every dot? No, that doesn't necessarily make it a bad model. The general rule of thumb is, I would say this is yes, because there's roughly 2 dots above and 2 dots below, or 2 dots above and 3 dots below. So the same number of data points above and below is a good rule of thumb, okay? If I scroll back real quick here, remember these crazy ones? Do you see how the line kind of had the same number of points above as below? That makes it a pretty good line of best fit. The other thing that'll make it a good line of best fit is a correlation coefficient close to 1, but we didn't do this one on the calculator. All right, let's see if we can cram one more in on the calculator. This is a tricky question, and it's on the quiz, or on the summative, whatever it is, test, quiz, whatever you want to call it. Read it to yourself and see if you can figure out what makes it tricky. Don't put it in your calculator yet, because you probably do it wrong. It seems really straightforward. What do you think?
The number of hours felt in the last day and the average number of books read.
I think it's just per day and then per month.
All of those things sound really confusing, but as long as we keep it in terms of days and months, for the per day and per month, we're fine. And what was yours? I'm sorry, I forgot what you said.
The average number of books
Okay.
read, and then just the counting number of hours.
Yeah, I think it's still probably the average number of hours of TV or something. Yep, they worded it funny. What's tricky is here, guys. Read what right there. What's Y? Yes, good catch. This is Y equals MX plus B, yes? So they want the Y to be the books. This is our Y value. Would most of you have put that in list 1? Because it's on top? I would have. Where should we put it if it's a Y value? List 2. And the X value is the hours, and that we want to put in list 1. So I would have entered it backwards. You can actually fix that several different ways, but it's easier if you just put it in right from the beginning. Okay, how did we even get there? Stat, enter. Clear, enter to get rid of that stuff. List 1 is 1.6. Already messed up. I think my decimal point key doesn't stick on my calculator or my computer. Yep, see there again, decimal didn't work. Probably have food underneath the button or something. This calculator or computer is very old. 3.8, 3.5. I always figure I've waited long enough. If I've managed to finish, then you guys were all done 5 minutes ago, right? Everybody okay? Now it says find the equation. Do we remember how to do that? Stat, arrow to the right, choice 4. If you have the older calculator, it's parenthesis, second 1, comma, second 2, comma, then the var's business. For most of us, it already said, this is where, guys, if you had entered it wrong, you could have switched here and made this list 2 as your X and list 1 as your Y. Do you see that? I would have forgotten to do that and just assumed I was doing it right, so I typed it in the other way. And then the store is vars, arrow to the right, enter, 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 until it shows up on your screen as an equation. All right, I have kind of a mess. If I go to graph right now, I'm going to have a mess. Okay, I maybe did something wrong. There's some things you're going to have to fix. I'm going to go to y equals and clear out some old stuff here. Okay. Did I type something in wrong? Did anybody notice?
I don't know. I didn't see anything.
I suppose before I go through this all again, well, it should. That's not what you got? Okay. Probably have one data point wrong. Yeah, 25. Supposed to be catching me at these things, guys.
That would make a big difference.
That makes a difference.
This is why you should proofread. I was just checking y'all.
Just make sure I'm paying attention.
All right, but if you go to your graph real quick, it probably doesn't look right. Okay? Remember what I said? Every time we put new data points in, what do we have to type? Zoom 9, which is, yes, we had to adjust the window. Zoom 9. Now, is everybody getting something like this? Zoom 9. Okay, let's finish this question if we can. What was the equation rounded? Somebody want to read theirs?
I put negative 1.61x plus 6.25.
Okay. You could find that on your home screen, or you could find it on your y equals, because you've stored it. What was the correlation coefficient? Anybody write that down or have it on their home screen? 8696 or 9? Negative 9.8 something? Close enough? All right, last part. How many television hours would a person watch if they didn't read any books? So this is our predicting step. 0 books. Where do we put the 0 in? Careful. 0 books is the Y, so we have this. So go back to your home screen and solve for 0. Is it like 3.5 or 3.4? 3.8? So roughly 3.8 hours of TV for a person who didn't read any books, according to our equation. All right. Tomorrow there will be time for you to ask questions before the homework is due, and I will finish these notes tomorrow, okay? The assignment that goes with this, if you want to do it tonight, is 8, worksheet 8.
At least I can actually get like 8 hours of sleep though. I'm so sorry.
Jacob, oh, stop taping. Did you want me to, what?
Before you didn't pause it. Click here to pause.
Oh, I thought it was